Hello and welcome. This is going to be another edition of the Daily Dharma. My name is Dina with Empressivewarrior. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, lending your energy. Let's take a moment, and I realized that in all my excitement to get going today, I've had a few distractions. I did not light my sacred herbs yet. Let's take a moment, set our intentions for the reading to come. Sync up your energy today. As you see by the title, we're talking a little bit about 7 generations, the sacred teachings and the medicine. This information has been channeling through this morning with the pre-messages. So I hope that you'll consider looking at the community page for a couple of other people's content that I was able to find online today. One was talking about the various generations that we identify, the boomers, the lost generation before them, and then we move forward into, what is it then, the X, and first card's coming out, Tantric Journey, and then what? Goes X, Millennials, and then Z, and now the Alpha generation. Second card coming out is Belief. So I also personally identify as you may see when you check out those articles, if you do, or videos, that there's this micro generation that I belong to right between approximately, some people differ on their dates, but somewhere between 77 and 85, where the children in that generation grew up first like the preceding generation with no internet, and all of a sudden there was this extreme technological boom and everybody had cell phones and internet, and in short order a computer in their hand. Who knew from the time when we were young? And so this happened while those of us were pretty young, and so our path is different than others. Third card out is the second sacral chakra. So yeah, that information was interesting, and that led me to share some information about the 7 generations and the other sacred teachings. There was a gentleman that was speaking from, I believe, the Ojibwe tribes, and it was also given through, I believe it was Red Cedar. I believe it's a university. I shared the link. My apologies for messing up the content. I'll try to put those links down below as well for those that don't want to go fishing for it in the community. We've got 3 more cards coming out: Fertility, Realization, and Earth. So I went through, and it's an hour and 40-minute content video, the teachings one, and it's just incredible. I love the speaker. The first speaker took me all the way through almost, I think, 51 minutes out of that. So I'm not quite halfway through, and it's already such brilliant and beautiful confirmations about what the generations are really here for. And it doesn't focus too much on the deviation from where we're supposed to be and where we find ourselves. It doesn't go into that depressing aspect of it at all. All it does is talk about the actual language and the origin of the words. And this first individual is breaking them down and talking about the words that their people have for certain aspects, especially focuses on the words used for the 7 generations, both going forward and preceding you. And so there's definitely some mojo speaking through the channel that I am for you today about the generations before and after. And the main idea that was stirring within me, and the seed that it's triggering within me, is current affairs and situations, family, friends, relatives. The way that our culture globally has become is so largely influenced by, I'll just call it the culture, the society influencing itself, and then becoming distracted and no longer honoring the teachings that are so sacred to our people. The culture has been largely faced with genocide, cultural genocide. The people remain, but as not fully embodied. I think that we can kind of agree that many people walk that path. So I don't mean to focus on that aspect. What they focus on is like how we're kind of interconnected. And that for me was talking about how instead of honoring that interconnectedness, that some individuals are accidentally beginning to fight amongst each other instead. We blame shift, we push opinions, we generalize about, you know, the younger generations. They're irresponsible. They don't know what works, and they don't want to put in the work that we had to do. And then the older generations, you know, they're stuck in their ways, or they don't know about how things have changed. It's not like that anymore. And all of these things are true, but when we focus on what isn't working, we accidentally forget to look at the gifts that we hold for each other. And instead, we're out here like broadcasting from the shadow with each other accidentally. So I think that's the crux of what wants to come through. I feel like I need 3 more cards here. And then we'll see what the cards want to speak on this situation for us. Got rows of 3, 2 so far, and we're looking for 3 more cards. Spirit, help us understand. We'll take these. Underneath, delight. One of the quotes that I really enjoyed from the first referenced video about the generational definitions, and specifically about Generation X, was talking about, it had so many individuals speaking for their own perspective, you know, polling the audience, like, what does it mean to be part of your generation? And this one individual is identifying how he was a member of a band, had this really great 2-night-a-week gig on the weekends where they were musicians and highly paid, very popular, living the high life, you know, really on top of their game. And then he had to keep a day job, I think at like an insurance company. And then it was like, would you like 2 copies of that, sir? And he started really talking about how his perspective was that our the Generation X that he was speaking for has identified the changing climate, and what is it worth to go to a day job all day long? You know, is the meaning of life to create a job that then creates dependency upon making money to feed, clothe, and everything else? You know, and I think that's why we see things like the sustainability movements. So the last 3 cards coming out are 23, dynamic, then alchemy, 8, and 26, empowerment. So I think even though we don't have the synergy card out here, that's kind of what I'm feeling. It's like this recognition that our joy is our gift to share with the world, versus the idea of false loyalty to an institution, for instance. You know, there's been in previous generations a very much need or perpetuated loyalty that is pushed upon people as their civic duty to go to work. Now, to go to work then creates infrastructure and many good and bad things, but it creates dependence upon the systems and the material in a different way than cultivating the earth, being hunters and gatherers and tribal members. And I think what we're seeing is the recognition that previous generations were so caught up in the illusion of duty and indentured servitude, I'd like to just call it in the moment. Although there's all levels of breaking out of this, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to demonize or make anybody's day bad. But as we look at this, it's like breaking out of this is like, what is life worth to me? It's to create enjoyment and fulfillment, and not in a hedonistic, nihilistic way, but also Generation X is recognizing the investment that's necessary in the family unit as the first generation where both parents were at work or it was a single parent household, full stop. Then there's no guidance and the children raised themselves. And so we're not a bootstrap generation that is obligated by duty to family and country. We are the sovereign individuals that, we had to cook and clean and feed ourselves and guide ourselves. We got to choose what we engaged in. Our time became our own when we were not in the same type of mentality, and so it created a lot of diversity, a lot of understanding that being raised by media then puts us into context with this other type of programming. And so it all kind of spins around. So I don't want to get too much off on tangents. So tantric journey, belief in sacral chakra at the top, it's like the beliefs that are specific to our own passion and enterprise. And I just see 1111 on the timer there. And belief is the 11 card. Those beliefs in how we are able to look compassionately and forgiveness mindedly at each other with unconditional love and respect and regard for the blessings and the gifts that our friends, family, and neighbors are in their own right, in their own sovereign energy here, because we're creating the power and control dilemmas and dynamics here because of the way that we're interacting with each other. Because on the vertical column here, we have tantric journey, this alchemical situation happening within the self, the mixing and churning of our Shiva Shakti energy, the yin, the yang that is within us, and also then that cognitive dissonance or alignment that can happen between the heart and the mind. And so are we a soul empowered, as we have empowerment here at the end of the reading, which that's our destiny here, or are we a soul divided unto itself out here trying to, grab at things externally? Or are we really tapped into the alignment at the center point? So that tantric journey is where we're starting out, is the recognition and realization of our empowerment to change, and that we are not only a bit of a product of our past, and not that brings any shame or otherwise, but that it's part of our sacred destiny to be part of our sacred history or herstory, whatever you want to say at this moment, because it's both. It's all of this and more. Under the deck, we have Take Flight looking at me here, winking at me. So yeah, it's this belief in self and that things are ultimately in right order and that we're here on purpose, in our purpose, just by alchemizing the dynamics that we're here to seed and feed into the world. Are we going to leave a legacy that nourishes and honors the children's 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 and their grandchildren's grandchildren's grandchildren? If you catch my drift, it's like, what are we leaving for others? It's this ability to leave things better that is part of our destiny. And so we see each generation attempting in a poorly guided fashion, shame on all of us that come before, they're attempting to resolve some type of dichotomy, some type of inner dilemma that was left for them like a Rubik's Cube from the previous generations. And to the extent that we can reach across to each other and just say, you know what, put down the Rubik's Cube. Let's just see each other for a minute. We don't have to figure each other out in this dynamic necessarily. I saw yesterday a meme that said something about quit focusing on what people have done to betray or be misloyal or some other type of thing that you can't resolve. Just let that be and celebrate the fact that you are not on that pathway and that you use your energy towards better, putting your energy consistently towards that and honoring whatever you can. and trying to clean it up when you can is really seeding and feeding the dynamics in this powerful vortex energy. So the second horizontal is fertility, realization, and earth. It's like recognizing that we are the compost that becomes the future. It's like we are literally sculpting the world through the way that we sculpt our own personal identity, expression, the way that we volunteer, the way that we return to the family, the way that we return to the earth, the way that we hold up and hold sacred the sacred teachings of our forefathers. I'm not positive if I have any brilliant individual forefathers, but I know that across the globe, those individuals that have been shown to be powerful, enlightened individuals in these teachings that they hold sacred, that those are also my kin, because we're all in this closed loop environment here that is Mother Earth. It's like this realization that with the fertility prospects, it's like we're all eating the earth. We're here only because of the Mother Earth and only because of the Father Sky. And so we are the children here. We're all fleas on the same dog. That sounds a little crazy, but I think we've all heard that. Well, most of us have heard that before. So the middle column I also want to see here, belief, realization, and alchemy. It's like, do you believe? Do you understand? It's like this tower moment at the center of this crux, this turning point here where things are kind of spun on their head, where it's like this realization of the sacred nature of what you hold in your heart and your alchemical potential to shift things through the nature of your involvement and engagement with whatever it is here. So the last line horizontally in the bottom here, dynamic, alchemy, and empowerment, you're able to shift the dynamics. You're able to see how this past, then alchemizes this 1 and 2 that make 3, perhaps your parentage in this way, or, like the maiden, mother, crone, Father, Son, Holy Spirit here, this triketa energy here, horn, pyramid, hierarchy into synergy here. And this is empowering something very crucial for I think, the consciousness development of all that is, but you're personally recognizing your impact here. And so the final vertical column here is sacral, chakra, earth, and empowerment. So I think that this is the reseeding of that consciousness. It's helping others to see the belonging, helping other people to feel that they are kin, and helping others to recognize the sacred symbiotic relationship between earth and water and air and trees and humans, and how we're all microcosms and macrocosms of everything that is. It's a huge turning point, I feel, and I know I'm making something dramatic that is quite simple, but at the center, I feel, right over realization, I'm going to place this one right order. Exactly. Everything is in right order, but we are the ones keeping it in the right order. And it's kind of our only duty is to leave it better than we found it, and to help others to understand the teaching of how to leave it better, how to connect, how to not get lost, how to not feel isolated, how to not feel the imposter. We are the ones that we've been waiting for in this way. And it's like, how many times has things like the toxic patriarchy, for instance, not to demonize, not to generalize on the gender, but how many times have those type of scarcity mentality teachings superseded the so-called meek and displaced them, or things like the cultural genocide, stealing away our connection to the earth? And again, that sounds really harsh, but I think that that's who I'm speaking to here, are some people that are here as movers and shakers and critical thinkers, as well as unconditional lovers. And so that is the heart and mind that wants to be a warrior for peace. And how do you do that? I always defer and default back to, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than it is to be a gardener in a war. So prepare well, but keep cultivating, keep building. Don't focus on stockpiling the warheads, as the Tao will teach us. Stay in your peace and instead cultivate your artistry and nourishment and the teachings, the sacredness. Uphold the sacred. What about tantric journey? Let's take this one. Intuition. You're understanding something very deeply at your core, which is helping you to shift this mindset into something that's, it's like you knew it logically, but now it's so deep in your body, you're having a turning point moment. So over belief, we have integrity. I think you're walking a talk in a deeper way. It's like you knew it, but you could only activate it to the extent of your capacity at that time, whether it was like, you know, you had to keep working a job until you had something better or something like that. Underneath commitment, yeah, you may have had your given your word or been in a sacred contract with something or yourself in a learning cycle, and now understanding more, you're doing a little bit better, you're resolving your inner conflicts, and thus you're able to be in right order with your friends and neighbors. Sacral chakra, faith. Have faith that you do belong, that you're here on purpose, that you are imbued with the gift of recognition of the sacred. I feel like you are some very empowered earth angels and also star seeds at the same time, where you are a tender soul, but also so powerful here, especially ending with empowerment and delight. It's like you've made it through the portal of really understanding how your spontaneous, inspirational beingness is so critical right now. So over fertility, we'll take this one. Gifted. Exactly. That's what we were just talking about. And I saw 2222 when I looked up there. So fertility and gifted, it's like we are gifted with the capacity to be the sacred composters of the consciousness. It's like we help activate and alchemize other individuals through somewhat, it could be a shamanic group that I'm speaking with as well, because it's like helping them and holding their hands through the underworld and saying, you know, I understand that you're upset, but at the same time as you have grievances, you know, helping those other individuals to understand and to then innerstand as well, to use that little tagline. Excuse me, with the throat chakra issues, sometimes when I start doing this, it does happen. Earth, we have immunity. Immunity, it's so interesting here. It's like a blast of water on the earth, on the parched earth. I think that you're bringing consciousness and the hydration of emotional, you're infusing the earth and the world and the individuals, the material world, with the hydrating quality of emotion and psychic nature, that compassionate mixture of seeing below the surface. So many people are so disconnected from their connection to everything. They're disconnected from their body, from their mind, from their emotions, from their friends and family, from any individuals or personal contact, or from a sense of identity about themselves. And thank goodness that those of us here are on the pathway of awakening. And it can be a little disheartening and discouraging from time to time. But I know that those of us that are on this path here are helping to bolster Earth's immune system against the mass hypnosis. Change of mind. Yes. I feel like that's like, you know, awakening. feels so powerful, awakening them from the mass hypnosis. Yes, now we have music. It's like a lullaby over dynamic, switching to then like some type of inspired tribal thing, like, oh, I've been listening to some shamanic drumming recently. It's like sometimes it's like the timbre and the quality and the intensity of the emotions that we channel, whether we're speaking or emoting in some other type of a way, or whether we're writing or sharing our artistry in other ways, like visual content or painting, some such as that, or gardening. It's like that is utilizing those energies and putting them into some type of a context here. And so that music is like I said, when I saw that card, it was like, ah, then that's the music. It's shifting the dynamic from the lullaby into the shamanic beat. Is like, on the Ojibwe teachings, they were talking about how when these sacred drums were beat in ceremony between the tribes that would previously have been warring, they were honoring their interconnectivity and their need for solidarity in times of crisis and chaos. And as they beat the drums together, it represented the intentional synchronizing of their hearts. It's like synchronized swatches. Anybody here from the generation would know what that one is. And in the swatch in general, it's so, there's so many generational things, like all the music, for instance, of the hippies generation, and that classic rock. There's a reason why it persists in some of the crooning songs and country and so on, bluegrass and folk music of all kinds, in that generational information that was, on the first video that I referenced again about the different segments and generations, talked about how, all of these culturally rich movements, they all have one thing in common. They come from the lower class and the poverty classes, because that's where the creativity comes from. It's the pressure that creates the innovation and the tantric journey. But if we could understand that that is actually the critical mass necessary to break through and empower us to see through and bust through the matrix into our own period of delight here. It's like to sing our own song, to activate our own soul harmonics through the dynamics, and to reach into the dynamics of others without any finger pointing or accidentally shadow boxing in the mirror of the ego, but to actually embrace the dynamics that challenge us, to therefore make us better. I'm hearing like mic drop. So we've got Violet Flame, to alchemize the lower into the higher, which is talking about our gift to shift this fertility, to seed the collective with breakthrough mindset altering, mind changing thoughts that help people to take their sacred soul essence and sovereignty back from so-called the matrix, or something else if you choose to call it that. So alchemy here. Assistance. You're being supported in your journey to break through, and you are also the sacred assistant of all of those that you reach and all of the teachings that come before you, because you have the third eye and the heart that's aligned and attuned to the sacred messages and the sacred truth with a capital T. You are being given and initiated into these sacred teachings on some level so that you can assist the collective to help them to wake up. Violet Flame remains in the bottom. All right, something for empowerment here. Uniting us with others in the deep trust that we are all connected through the same source, it reads. I'll take this one here. We have Starseed. Yeah, we definitely called that one earlier. So you have definite earth and cosmic roots, prayers. There's something quite sacred happening here. It's a delightful answer to your prayers. So, I'm not sure which way to go here. So I think where I'm going to end it is the Kali Kuan Yin deck. We've gotten some great insights from this in the previous days. I wish I could read out everything from the books because the books are so good. We'll take this one off the top and we'll look at the bottom. All right, number 23, Baglamukti, if I didn't mispronounce. And under the deck we have, two want to be shown, number 18 and number 19. Look at, they're even so far apart in the deck, but see how they show themselves. Sequential cards, 18 and 19. Moon and the sun, perhaps for some. Lalita Tri Pura, remember the Tri? It's the different, and Yin Empress is the other one showing up in the next sequence. It's about the trifecta. It's about the evolution, about the feminine. This is going to sound bad, but the need to elevate the feminine within all of us, the vulnerability, the sensitivities, the delight nature, instead of the toxic patriarchy that has stolen our essence from us for too long. So let's see if I could read you just a little bit of 23. I apologize if I run out of time, you guys. Take a look at this beautiful sun goddess here in her radiant state. Burning golden light of divine protection, she arrests the flow of negativity, particularly that of our own making. She is divine intervention and sacred activity. She transforms our karma from that which hinders our joy to that which creates true happiness and bliss for ourselves and all beings. As you seek refuge in her, you are protected from gossip, slander, and any form of negativity from others. A positive turning of the tide of fortune is predicted, which we already predicted at the very beginning of this whole thing here. Let's see if we can read any more here. She's the 8th of the wisdom goddesses, known for her golden light and her yogic powers, particularly her power of Stramhara, or the power to paralyze or to immobilize. She's known for pulling the tongues out of demons, which seems gruesomely at odds with her beautiful appearance, but along with that has a deep spiritual significance. The tongue is the symbol of speech, which is sound expressed with intention. Sound is a creative power. Intention gives it direction. To pull out the tongue of a demon is to end its capacity to create trouble. It is this in the sense of its aborting or stemming the flow of negativity. This halts negativity in its tracks, preventing it from doing any harm, nullifying its power to cause havoc. It's an act of protection. If you or another have said words that you regret or heard some nasty gossip, jealousy, or hatefulness stemmed from somebody's lips, akin to a curse, trust that your spiritual refuge in her will nullify